Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Nadine Mazzola. I'm with the Kinder Institute, and we're thrilled to be presenting George Kinder's webinar today, Life Planning for You, a step-by-step guide to develop your own life plan. Just a few housekeeping items at the beginning. To receive your free ebook for attending this webinar, you'll receive a link in the follow-up email after the webinar, but you can also go to Amazon and download a free Kindle edition during the webinar or following the webinar. We'll also leave time for question and answer during at the end of the webinar, so please save your questions and we'll look forward to hearing from them. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to George.
Thanks, Nadine. Welcome, everybody. Again, it's wonderful to connect all over the globe. We have people on the call from the UK, from the Netherlands, from all over the US. Looks like from India and very likely Australia as well. So thank you so much for coming on board for this. I want to start because there's a range. I can see there's a range of people signing up, from some that are very familiar with financial planning and life planning, and others who are not really aware of it at all. So I want to talk just for a moment about life planning itself and why we are doing this step-by-step guide to develop your own life plan, what that might mean for you as we go through this. Life planning is a way of approaching both our life and our finances so that what it is that we are most passionate about, most excited about, or is most meaningful, touches our heart the most, happens, so that we live into the life we are meant to live and that would mean the most to us. So that's what the process is about. And in the financial planning world, life planning is sometimes used as a term for the front end of financial planning. Great financial planners, in our opinion, will do a serious life planning approach with their clients before they move on to the finances. And the reason is that it's very hard to do a good job with finances without knowing what it is that your client cares about most. So many people think of life planning as the front end of financial planning, and others think of it as involving the financial planning as well. So they think of it as involving both that front end and putting the financial architecture together. I work with both definitions, and you'll see an approach as we go through today that works both with a strong emphasis on the front end, on what we care about most, what's most important in our lives to accomplish, but also we'll look at the financial architecture that needs to be in place in order to accomplish it. The book that you're going to receive for free, the Kindle book, it's already, I think, number 3 on self-help personal transformation on Amazon. I checked it this morning, and in the UK, for those of you in the UK, it's the 20th bestseller in the self-help choice of books. So we're very proud of how it's doing, and I will reference, as we go through the step-by-step guide to develop your own life plan, I will be referencing largely the website, which is affiliated with the book, which is connected with the book. But the book is it has great stories, inspiring stories, and more depth to it if you want more depth in this process. So starting with that, now going to the next slide, this simply shares with you what you already know, which is that, oh, I've just lost my screen. Hold on a second. Coming back to the screen. Okay, here we are back. So you know already about how to get your free ebooks. The thing that I'd like to add here, I think, well, let's go to the next slide, is that the online tool that we're going to guide you through, which is the website for it is lifeplanningforyou.com, has just been reviewed by the Wall Street Journal in their annual review of retirement, best online tools for retirement planning, and it was they talk of it as their favorite. So I hope you enjoy it as you go through it. Some of you will be on it as we go through this work today, and others of you, I'm sure, will look at it and join it later. There are reasons why people are unsuccessful with their money. One of the major reasons is that they don't do the life planning piece first. They don't put their life first. Here I've listed 5, and I probably will include a couple more as we talk through these, but there's 5 reasons people are unsuccessful in their relationship with money. One is the lack of an inspiring vision. It's a place to keep their eyes on the prize. What really happens here, it's interesting, what happens is that we end up thinking of money as a commodity, something that's tied entirely to our material life, and something that's a product to be bought and sold, and classic market mechanisms, and rather than understanding money as the facilitator of our life and of our dreams. So if you see the 5th point I make here is that innocent beliefs, and that's a term that comes from my book, The 7 Stages of Money Maturity, that innocent beliefs undermine our inspiration. But one of our innocent beliefs about money is that it's a commodity, and this is all about the money, whereas money is really meant to facilitate our brilliance, our genius, who it is that we're meant to be. And those innocent beliefs about money are supported everywhere. They're supported throughout much of the media when they hype, that you should be in gold now or internet stocks or whatever it is that they're telling you. They're emphasizing how much money is about the commodity as opposed to a place of meaning. And it's not just the media, it's primarily the financial services companies that are fundamentally product companies that would like to keep you thinking that their products are the solution. The real solution it's inside yourself. So it's a lack of inspiring vision. It's them making that vision concrete. So that vision is not something that's simply going to happen 20 years from now when you retire, but it's something that you begin to really make happen now so that you're living with much more passion and inspiration in your life now. There's a failure to apply financial architecture to what we care about most. We tend to apply it mostly to products and numbers and spreadsheets, which again is not a healthy way to work with money. Number 4 is the painful experiences we have around money, which undermine our beliefs and rob our vigor. And then again, the innocent beliefs. I would add something here that I think it probably should have been in the top 5. Maybe it's number 1 in some way, and that is that there's a totally confusing structure for a consumer in terms of how to find a financial advisor that will really do wonders for you, will really listen to who you are, will really put money in its proper perspective for you, and then apply the financial architecture to deliver it to you. So this confusing financial advisor architecture exists in all cultures and all countries. The work I've done, we have people that have trained in 25 countries, and this is true everywhere. And it's primarily because the culture of money is controlled enormously by the huge companies that are largely selling products. So a great deal of confusion as to how to actually find advice. One of the ways that I'm thinking of it in my new book, which I will have another book out later this year, which is called Model Integrity, Deliver Freedom, is that a doctor, the best doctors aren't the ones who operate on us or sell us pills. They're the ones that deliver health to us. And in a similar way, just as a doctor should be delivering health to their clients, a financial advisor should be delivering freedom. And freedom comes because of all of these things being in line, that we really do our life plan. So one more thing here, and then we'll move on to the life planning process. 3 ways that you can sabotage your life plan. We see this all the time, that someone will design a great vision for their life, a great dream, and then not step into it. So one of the keys to life planning is moving into that dream once you've got it. And the second one is not taking the practical steps to accomplish it. So not only do you have to live in the dream, but you also have to do things to make it happen. And that's why finances can be one of those things, and are important in the process of life planning. And the third thing is not getting help when you need it. A lot of people who are on this webinar, I'm sure, are here for self-help reasons. But in fact, there are times when we simply can't solve it. The complexities of financial planning are too great, or the complexities in our life, and we need support to make it happen. So the third area, the third way that plans are sabotaged is by not getting help when you need it. Let's move on to lifeplanningforyou.com. That's the new website that we have out. We have now, we've not really advertised this at all. We've had some social media and some a bit of publicity on it, but very little. And we're already at 3,000 consumers using the site. So clearly the site is working for people. And this is the home page. And I just want to start there to give you a sense of how this will work. We're going to go right to exercises after this page and get to work on designing a life plan. But the home page is very helpful. First of all, you can see the menu structure across the top. You see a group of pictures. Those pictures play an important role in the website, in that they were chosen to be places that many of us might love to just kind of relax and enjoy. So it's meant to set a tone, both the quietness of the page and then the vibrance of the images, to set a tone to give you the more encouragement to dream. But the cool thing about the pictures, and I'll show you this at the end, is that you can substitute any pictures you like. So if your life plan is all about your family, you can have these pictures just be filled with your family or filled with your favorite places. So they're changeable, but they're part of the plan. So here you'll see that there's some information on how to find the book for people. There's an introduction to life planning. I've got an arrow to that. And down at the bottom, you'll see something that says start the Ebook exercises or read about the Ebook life planning process. We have many segments that can be either read or ignored, and you can go right to the exercises themselves and get them going. And that's the next arrow, which says just simply get started life planning now. And the third one is the retirement calculator. There's a pretty nifty retirement calculator that we'll view as we go through this. And then finally, there will always be reminders if you do get stuck on how to find a financial advisor you can trust. So we have information about that. We'll link you to a website or directory of life planners and marvelous ways to find one who's just the right person if that's the direction you want to go. So on to the exercises. The first exercise is exploration. And again, you can see the pictures are larger here. And I'm going to go through a couple of images here just to get you down to the exercise itself. So it's very easy to read here. And I'm going to read it and then just pause. And part of life planning is the first meeting, whether we're working with an advisor or we're working with ourselves. We're meeting ourselves, and this is how it begins. As you start the Evoke life planning process, imagine that you are walking into the office of a great mentor, a man or woman of wisdom and compassion, completely in tune with who you are and with the financial knowledge necessary to design the plan for you to accomplish your life's dreams. As they turn to you and ask why you've come, what would you tell them? And then type your answers here. We're going to pause for a moment, and if you'd like to jot down a thing or two, that'd be wonderful. If you're on the site, feel free to type into the site. It will have some effect later as we move through the digital nature of life planning online. What would you tell them? A man or woman of wisdom and compassion, a mentor, really there for you. What would you want them to know about why you're visiting them, about your life, about what you want to accomplish, and perhaps about financial elements as well? Why are you there with them? So that's the first exercise that we do. It's a reflective exercise. It kind of loosens us up for the next set of things. And let's see, I'm having trouble getting to the next slide. So let me see if I can do it this way. There we go. So the first meeting is the exploration meeting, very open-ended. It's meant for us just to explore in a deep way what it is, why it is that we would be engaging in a process of financial life planning. And then the second meeting, you'll see that Evoke is the term we use here. Evoke is an acronym for 5 phases of a life planning process. Exploration is the one we just visited. Now we're going into vision, which is where we deal with inspiration. What really would inspire us in our life? The third phase is obstacles. That's where we take on the obstacles and move through them. The fourth phase is K for knowledge, and that's where the financial plan is approached, or that's where we reach out for help. And the final phase, E for execution, is really finishing the plan, and finishing the work, acting on the work out in the world. So vision is the place where we create the inspiring vision, and we have, as you can see here, there are 5 elements that we have on the website. If you're working with an advisor, there are a few other exercises that we use as well, that we train people in as well. The 2 that I'm going to really go through today are the 3 questions and the Heart's Core Grid. They're really at the heart of this process. And the 3 questions, often when you go through them, you can find what it is that your life plan is all about. So we're going to start with question number 1 and then move on. So here's the 3 questions, an introduction to it, and then question number 1. Imagine that you are financially secure and that you have all the money you need for the rest of your life. How would you live your life? Would you change anything? What would you do? And let yourself go. Don't hold back on your dreams. Will you change anything in your life, and how will you do it? So you're really financially free. How will you live your life? And again, I'll pause for a few moments, and feel free to put your first thoughts down. Normally you might take 5 or 10 minutes, but it can be useful if this is the first time you've heard these questions, or if it's a review of them, to bring your thoughts to them. What would you do? You have all the money that you need for the rest of your life. How would you live your life? What would you do? And then moving to the next question, question number 2. This time, this is a deeper question. These are meant to go deeper. This is a reflective website, and it's a reflective exercise. This time you visit your doctor, who tells you that you have only 5 to 10 years left to live. The good news is that you won't ever feel sick. The bad news is that you will have no notice of the moment of your death. So you have 5 to 10 years left to live, at least 5, but no more than 10. What will you do in the years you have remaining? Will you change your life, and how will you do it? Again, jot down your first thoughts. And when you come back to the exercise, you can take certainly 5 or 10 minutes with each of the questions. What would you do? 5 to 10 years left. What would shift? What would be most important? And then let's go on to question number 3. You can see the deepening that's happening here. Question number 3 is the deepest of all, and most important, really, to pay attention to pause with, and reflect upon. This time your doctor shocks you with the news that you have only 1 day left to live. Notice what feelings arise as you confront your very real mortality. Reflecting on your life, on all your accomplishments, as well as on all the things that remain undone. Ask yourself, what did I miss? Who did I not get to be? What did I not get to do? And again, first thoughts are wonderful. Who did I not get to be? What did I not get to do? So, as you reflect on these, it turns out that the answers in question number 3 in particular, as you might imagine, they're certainly the most profound answers, often the most meaningful, usually the most meaningful. And they form a real key in the life plan. They become part of what we call the torch, which is the inspiring vision. Although some of the answers in question number 2 can come in there as well, and even some of them in question number 1. Usually when a person goes through this exercise and comes to question 3, and they see the things that they really care about, there's immediately a contrast for us as we think about what we really want to do and who we really want to be, and we think about what we're doing and who we are. And I think for most people, there's an inspirational moment there of, not for all, but for most people, a moment of, well, time to get to work. It's time to reorder my priorities and make sure these things are accomplished. And that's part of the fire that leads to a successful life plan. But there's also, for some people, they come to this question and they experience the regrets, and so they have more question, maybe a slight touch of despair, and what we do here on the website, as you'll see when you dive into the website, is we let you know, and likewise a financial planner is trained to be a life planner, does this as well, is that you're meant to accomplish these things. You're meant to finish the regrets off, and you're meant to live into the dreams. So that's what happens here is that a turning from a deeply reflective moment to an inspirational one, coming up with what it is that we really want to accomplish and then determining to do it. And I call the things that come up here the 5 pursuits, and it's very interesting because what comes up, as you see, it's family and relationship tend to come up first. Spirit and values are frequently there and very strong. Creativity, including business creativity, comes up. That's the third. These are in order of response as we've seen them over the years. The fourth most common one is community, and the fifth is a sense of place or environment. So it could be about travel, could be about home, where you live. What's interesting is that none of the things that a financial advisor would put as their top 3 things come up here. The investments don't come up, insurance doesn't come up, taxes doesn't come up, a will or an estate plan doesn't come up, your 401k, your IRA, your SIP, they don't come up. So, but these are the things that we care about, and these are the things that are important, and it puts things in perspective that this is what we should be focusing on in the financial meetings as well. And for our life plan, we need to bring those 2 things together. But before we get to that place of putting them together, let's go to another exercise. Actually, this is just to let you know, as you move on to the Heart's Core exercise and the other exercises, goals for your life, that you'll see in the Heart's Core exercise that there are 9 boxes. And if you put an asterisk in any one of the boxes, it will tell the digital network here that to put those items in what we call your torch, your inspiring vision. So it's a wonderful additional way that you can impact the program. But I'll show you more of that as we go along. So this next exercise is called the Heart's Core Grid, and here you divide the goals that you have in your life into three categories. It's primarily the columns that I'm looking at, not at the have, do, and be. So you're going to divide what you care about, and it could come from all the things that you listed in the questions 1, 2, and 3, or it could be something new pops out, which would be wonderful. If you think about your goals and your objectives in life, which of them is really at the heart's core for you, which is deep, meaningful, profound, urgent in a powerful and emotional way. So that's the heart's core column. And again, we'll just take a moment or two, but if anything comes up, just, boy, put it right in there. What are you passionate about? What is profoundly important? The second column is the ought to column. What comes up that's filled with responsibility, or that you feel you should do or you ought to do? And the third column is what would be fun to do. So, the third column might be tango lessons or a trip to Tuscany. Or it might be the trip to Tuscany could be in the Heart's Core column. Whatever it is for you, there's no right or wrong. That's one of the beauties of life planning. It's all about who you are meant to be. So take a moment and put a few things down. First things come to mind. If you're on the website, you'll also notice, as you're doing this, that you see the tiny corner in the bottom right. That corner can be pulled to enlarge the box like that. This is another exercise, but you can see you can pull it and enlarge the box. So that gives you the ability to write much more in these spaces when you come back to them. So moving on so this exercise is goals for your life. It's a wonderful exercise, but we're not going to cover it, but it will begin to break your things down into time frames, going from 1 week or 1 month out to a lifetime. And you can enter your own categories, you can add rows, you can change the column titles, wonderful flexibility to it, and again, put asterisks in it to highlight what's most important. This is the page where we come up with what we call the torch. And you'll see a box. Let's see if we've got it. Yes, and you'll see there's always the pictures flowing along, beautiful pictures, but of your own design when you're ready to put your own pictures in. And here, let's see, I think we even blow it up further. So the torch goes, if as a consequence of this work you were to deliver to yourself the following. And if you're on the website, you'll see that all of the elements from the third question are there, and all the elements from the heart's core are there. And then any elements that you've asterisked in the heart's core or the goals for your life will be there as well. On the website, I've skipped a few pages, but on the website you have the opportunity to adjust the torch, to rewrite it, to edit it, to make it your own. And then there's an encouragement, and we describe this in some detail, to paint the picture. So here what we mean is to really live into what it would be like to live that dream for yourself. So to paint the picture of what it would be. And always between meetings in a client engagement, we'll give a week or two for the client to live into the dream so that they paint it more and more richly. And that's one of the things that ensures that the life plan will occur. Moving further, we come to obstacles. Some of you are already thinking, well, how can I do this? How can I get the time to do it? I need the finances. I need the money together. Many obstacles could come up. What we find mostly in life planning is that the obstacles are pretty simple to solve. At first they seem large, but when we get right down to it and we realize that that it's important for us to live the life that we're meant to live, the obstacles become clear and we move through them. So here is the exercise on the obstacles, and you'll see what we do here is just simply list the goals. We list them, the external obstacles. So if you've got a moment, you might list the top goal or two, put down what the external obstacles are, list the internal obstacles then, list how you would solve it, what the specific action steps are, and the time frames. Most of the goals are really quite deliverable, and most of them in relatively short order. And we're going to have time for question and answer in a few minutes. So I'd love to go through where it is that you felt challenged in this, in terms of the ability to create and to make happen the life plan that you're designing for yourself. So take a moment or two thinking about the main goals that you have. And among the action steps that we come up with, I mean, they're really wildly creative. A lot of this has to do with finding the time, and sometimes it's just taking time from another activity. Sometimes it's shifting the nature of our work, and whether it's finding a way somehow to do a 4-day week or to work from home, or changing entirely the nature of the work. Sometimes it involves a shift in location. Most of the time it's really fairly simple. And of course what we're doing is we're finding time for family and relationship, for the values that we have, to live the values, for our creativity, for community, and for our sense of place. So moving on then, once we've done the obstacles work, sometimes the obstacles have to do with finance. And one of the things that the Life Planning for You site is not, it's not a robo-advisor. So it's not a full-service financial planning program. There are programs like that out there. What we do is we provide quite a bit of information both here and also in the book about tackling or dealing with these elements that you see listed here: budgets, saving, retirement, knowledge, tax, insurance, estate planning, real estate, knowledge of financial experts, and life planners. We spend some time dealing with each of these and attempting to move you forward wherever it is that you need to move forward to make your life plan really live. We have one, I think, fairly significant, very simple design, which is a retirement calculator that I'm going to show you in a moment, and quite an extensive approach to finding an advisor if that's what you are choosing to do. But I encourage you to look more deeply in the book and also in the 7 Stages book that I wrote for the financial wisdom that you need, as well as here on the website itself. So here's, in knowledge, you'll see that we divide knowledge into 3 segments: find an advisor or do it yourself, choosing between the two, the financial toolkit, and a retirement calculator. So we're going to go to the retirement calculator that we call BERT, B-E-R-T, which is, as you see at the bottom of this page, back of the envelope retirement tool. And in that tool, you'll see we've put in a sample here, and there's quite a bit of information at the top. You're welcome to read it or not, and then there's even more information if you dive into a description of how this is designed and how it works. But here what you'll see is the person has put in the sum total of their invested assets. They've put in, we're assuming here that you can take 4% on a balanced portfolio with perhaps slightly more in equities than in bonds, just a classic financial planning formula. We take the number of remaining years you expect to live, take the total home equity, that's not the home value, but the home equity, total amount you expect from inheritance, the amount of Social Security, expected annual pension or annuity benefits, and then any remaining yearly income you expect, such as from part-time work, rentals, or other sources. And the program calculates, and you can read the details of it. As you see where it says try again, you can see how to use BERT and how the calculation works to see how we come up with a formula. It's a formula that I've used for myself for 30 years. It's a great shorthand. I certainly used as a financial planner the major financial planning spreadsheets that are used in a financial planner's office, but I found this to be a shorthand that was extremely close to what those larger plans would deliver. So it's a delightful thing that you can do on the back of the envelope and do in 5 minutes or so. The work with a planner or do it yourself, then there's a significant section here on choosing a planner. So if you're going to do a life plan, is BERT and the information that we have in the segments on investments and all of that, is it sufficient? Are you really doing a lot yourself already? Are you knowledgeable in those areas, or do you need someone to help? And if you do, the subtitle of the book that is the Life Planning for You book is finding a financial advisor you can trust. And in the book, I think I've written 50 pages on it. Here, there's a couple of pages that we have, and then we bring you to a search engine to find a life planner, and you can search by there are 4 ways to search. You can search by their name if you know their name. You can use the advanced search that I'll go over in a moment. You can choose a country. We're in somewhere between 25 and 30 countries. I've lost track. And you can also search in the United States by zip code, postal code, or by state. So in the advanced search, we've recently upgraded and updated this so that you can search for many different things. You can search for life planners and registered life planners. You can search for the Certified Financial Planner designation or an international equivalent, or you can search for any designation if there's a designation that you have as a favorite. You can search for fee-only planners. Those are planners that receive no commissions at all in their work, or planners that do. You can search for planners that have a specialty of working with the middle income market. So if people have $1 million minimum and you're not able to work with them, you can come to our site and look for that middle income market. You can also find more written about it in both the book and on our site as well. How do you do that work? You can search for passive investing. That's an index form of investing, or active investing. You can search for, does the person meet fiduciary standards? And does the person have a succession plan? And finally, one of the things that, if you're on the site, may be important to you and seems to be important in a lot of the searches that consumers are doing right now, among the 3,000 consumers that are on there, does the advisor use the Life Planning for You website? So you can take your information and move it and coordinate it with their use of the site. And so there's just a button that they have to push with your permission that makes that happen. Otherwise, the site is secure to you and you alone. So so that's the essence of the life planning process, and we're going to pause in just a moment for questions. I want to show you that you can customize this photo strip. Just by clicking on the photo strip itself, you will be sent to a page where you can see the images that are there. You can choose to remove any of those images. You can bring images of your own in. And there's, as you can see at the bottom, there are instructions to tell you how to do it, but it's really fairly simple. So here's in fact, here you can see an arrow to click to customize the photos and click to show or hide the photo strip if the photo strip's getting in your way. So finally, coming back to getting your free ebook, right now we've got an arrangement with Amazon. You can just go right to Amazon. So you don't need to go to these other places to get the free ebook. And what I'd like to do at this point is find out what questions you have. I suspect that there are questions, particularly from those of you who've never done this before. So let's see, and I'm just going to go first question.
Hi, George.
And the first question is this the webinar? And the answer is yes. Let's see.
Hi, George. Nadine here.
Hi, Nadine.
And so there was one question that came early on in the presentation where you were asking why people were here, and they responded that they were here for guidance to help achieve their sense of inner accomplishment and help enable their life dreams.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I think that's what life planning really does. That's what it's designed to do, and that's what it does.
And I'd like to invite people to ask questions. You should have a place where you can type in questions in I believe, the bottom of your control panel. And so we'll just hang out while some questions hopefully come in. I see them starting to roll in.
Good. I see one question here. Is this to tell us how to use this piece of software? I was using the piece of software because it was an easy way to use images that reflect how to do a life plan. But you can do the life plan in the book if you don't want to use the software. There are some of us that are software phobic, but more and more people are liking the fact that there is software, that there are apps, And this is such a personal piece of work. And as a piece of software, it's something that you can access anywhere in the world. So it's really wonderful. And it's also something that if you choose to share, you can share it with others.
If you go down a couple more questions, somebody was asking if we will post the recording, and everybody will get an email with a link to the recording.
Okay, great. Here's a question. Let's see. What do you do for people who have significant obstacles, such as complicated grief, a devastating divorce, job loss, etc.? Wonderful question. And there are a couple of things that come to mind there. First of all, if someone's really deep in grief, sometimes these questions, they're not ready to reflect on these questions. Sometimes there needs to be a pause between. Sometimes if you're in the midst of a devastating divorce, it's very, very challenging to reflect on what comes afterwards. But there are also people for whom those are exactly the moments where they want to have something that they can imagine moving toward, so that it gives their life a sense of purpose to do the exercises. So I think that when I was working with clients who were going through a complicated grief or a devastating divorce, I would work in both ways. I'd give the client a choice. I'd say, I have some wonderful reflective questions that might help you to give you a sense of where you're going, what the dream is, so that this doesn't feel like it's just a deadly, meaningless process that you're engaged in. But if you're not ready, or if the grief is too much in regard to all of this, I just let them know that I would be ready to work with them when they were ready. So in general, I would say that most people, if they're going through a job loss, for instance, this is exactly the time to start them on this process, to get them going, to make a difference in their life. And when we are in a place of darkness, we often need some image of something that would be relieving that darkness. That's what life planning does. That's what the third question does. That's what allowing yourself to dream does. So excellent question. I'm seeing a number of friends here here's one. How private is the information the consumer enters? Is it shared in any way, whether as identifiable or non-identifiable information? And the site is secure, Eleanor. And if you want details on that, please feel free to contact Nadine, who has more information on it. But this information is important to be secure as financial information would be, and we take that seriously.
And I would just add to that, George, that your information is not shared with anybody unless you decide to work with an advisor and decide to give your permission to share it. Otherwise, it's completely private.
Great, thank you. Here's one that says, I'm scared of this. How is guilt and shame connected with dealing with money? Most of this isn't about guilt and shame. Most people come up with, have dreams that they're holding back from, and that they really want to do. They want to spend more time with their kids. They want to play the guitar or design an independent film. They have visions, and what happens in this process is those visions come alive, and the site is meant to say, yes, it's time for you to make this happen. Let's make it go. So this is not about a therapy kind of approach where you go back and wrestle with guilt and shame. But most of us also, I had this. My third question had designing a book that I thought of as an illuminated manuscript. And what I did finally was I created a book of poems that I'd written and of photographs. And it's a book I'm very proud of, but I felt shame around not having done it for many years. Going into the shame wouldn't have helped, but having the vision clear and having either a website or a person who said, it's time to make this real, would have helped. I would have accomplished it a lot earlier. And the whole point of this really is to get those things going so that we're not living with a cloud an unconscious cloud, kind of floating along over our life so we never see the sun. So very important to work on these things. Let's see. Here's someone from the West Midlands in England. Thank you very much. How often would you revisit this process? Yearly? 5 years? I do this, classically in my life, I've done this about 3 times a year. Not always have things changed, or they haven't changed much, but every once in a while something profoundly different occurs. One of you asked this question about going through a grief. Whenever there is a transition, whenever kind of life gives me a body blow in some way, I go to these questions. I go to these exercises because it's at that time that I'm reflective and I want to find, well, what is life about? You know, what is meaningful? What is important that I do? And get back in touch with what is core, what's important. If I did this with a client, I review it in a minor way in every meeting. Just come back to it in a small way in every quarterly meeting. At least every 2 years, I would do the whole set of exercises again. So here's another. All right, I created an Evoke summary, but it doesn't list each question before my answers. Is there any way to see each question on the summary? And I think that's a question for Nadine. I don't know if you've got a quick answer or if the person should reach out to you.
I don't have a quick answer, but I will answer them privately in the question panel. Thank you.
Very good, very good. Any advice for someone struggling to identify their passions in life? I have taken some time to work through the Evoke process, but haven't had an aha moment as yet. And I guess the main question I would have is, have you worked with somebody? So if you've gone through the process and the 3 questions don't do it, the heart score doesn't do it, there's another exercise that I think we have in resources called Ideal Day, Ideal Week, Ideal Year that can help. If you can't find it through the website, find a great person to work with would be my recommendation. The website is, I think, lovely. I'm very excited about it. But there's nothing like a human being who really listens and intuits, who's trained in this, trained to listen, and trained to look and see what it is that you care about most and where you want to go. Here's a wonderful question. I don't know if I have an answer. What is your biggest learning from all the people you have worked with in helping achieve their dreams? I think it's the essence of my next book. I thank you for the question. What is your biggest learning from all the people you have worked with in helping achieve their dreams? We deserve a civilization, a society, a country, a series of countries, nations, where people's living into their dreams is the #1 purpose. Where we understand that freedom is the essence of democracy, and it's the essence of financial services. We don't have that right now. Right now, instead, what we have, both reflected in all the trust surveys, we have financial advisors and banks and financial services companies and politicians rated at the lowest of the low in terms of trust levels. And that's because they neither model integrity, at least in our imagination, nor deliver freedom. And the reason is it's not, I mean, most financial advisors that I know are terrific people, really good people, but also the huge majority of them are not really dealing with the essence of life planning. So what I would say is that people living into their freedom, living into their passions, creates a world that is alive with vitality. It's something that the economists should look at, because I think you'll see tremendous growth both in GDP and in a more appropriate measure, which might be just simply the entrepreneurial energy level of people in their own lives. So I think the biggest lesson is that this is something that everybody deserves, and every every level of society. This shouldn't be the exclusive property. That's one of the reasons we did the website. It should not be the exclusive property of millionaires, of people that have plenty of resources for a financial advisor to work with. Everybody has dreams. And using life planning appropriately, everyone should be able to live into their dream. What a wonderful world that would be. Powerful, beautiful, deep, inspiring. All right, let's look at the calculation is not transparent. I believe if you go into the details of it, you can find the details of the calculation. So that is, you'll find that will work.
Yes, I was just going to say, if you click on BERT Help, there's a link at the top of the page that then goes to another page that has the whole calculation broken down.
Great, great. All right. And here's another question from you. I'm in the UK. How do you work with someone who is unemployed? There are advisors all over the UK. We have probably between 300 and 400 life planners in the UK who've worked with us, and we have somewhere around 70 to 80, I think, who are registered life planners. So I'd encourage you to look them up and see if they work with what we call middle market people if finance is a problem. But there are wonderful, wonderful people in the UK. There's a real passion for this in the UK, as there is all over the world, wherever this has been engaged with. And again, another question, my partner's question is, what advice would you give to someone who's on minimum wage? In my financial practice, when I was a financial planner for years, I made sure that I was available to anyone. Anyone could come into my office. I would always work on an hourly basis. And what I found was that even people who were on minimum wage, each of us has dreams. And the important thing is the dreams. It's not about the wage. It's about the dreams. To access what it is that you really want to accomplish and figure out the most efficient path to get there, and to give some of that to yourself right now if you possibly can, or certainly within a year or two, to give some of that to yourself. So the number one thing is not to focus on the wage, to have the primary focus on who you're meant to be, and then of course pay attention to the wage and the financial issues that come up. If someone is near or at retirement age, this is another question, has only a modest amount of retirement savings, is it feasible to use this process? Again, yes, 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 it's feasible to use this process, because what comes up in that third question, what comes up in a life plan, are the things that we really care about most, which is time with our loved ones. It's our values, our sometimes spiritual things come up, our integrity. Each of these things are things that don't necessarily cost anything. They might cause a reallocation of time or a reallocation of finances. But it's important, I think, for all of us to live the life we're meant to live, and then this process is what identifies this. Let's see. And here's one more. Have you come across any obstacles that you cannot resolve, or a dream that is not realistic? Very, very rarely. I think I had one person who was really, really deeply, deeply troubled, and they were not able to come up with a dream that was realistic. But that's extremely rare, and I'm talking about working with thousands of people, so it's very, very small number. And then, have you come across obstacles that you cannot resolve? I've come across obstacles in the moment that I was terrified by. I've written about them in the book, but that seemed to come clear. One of them was an obstacle where someone had grief about the loss of their daughter many years before, and I didn't realize that that was what it was. I thought it was about visiting their daughter. But what we did was we looked at how they could transform that grief, and because it was clearly something that was bugging them, they were not able. I mean, for 13 years they carried it. So we worked with how they could make it so that it was no longer the block that it was, and they wrote a letter to their daughter. In this case, they had funds, and they did a small trust fund for the daughter's things that the daughter loved, a small foundation. So I think we've come to the end of our hour. This has been wonderful. Please enjoy the book, enjoy the site, and we'd love to hear from any and all of you. Thanks so much.